All right. Welcome everybody to our quick and easy down and dirty webinar about what Msp Toolshed is. All right, we're going to be here to talk about myself and Ben here. We're going to talk about what Toolshed is, what we're about, what we're trying to do with the product, and also how it can also improve you and your technicians' live when it comes to computer deployments. All right. Quickly, what we'll do here is some brief introductions as to who we are. First and foremost, I am Brandon Lippy. I'm the product specialist for Msp Toolshed. I kind of am the wearer of many hats. Just to kind of basically, I'm going to be a lot of the client facing support, a little bit of pre-sales support, engineering, things like that, and also help with a lot of development. What my primary goal is in my role is to take feedback from our clients and make sure our development team are knowing what our clients are looking for and our customers are working for. And here also with us is Ben Travis, product owner. Please, Ben, tell us a little about yourself.
Hey guys, as Brandon said, Msp Toolshed product owner. Been working on this and creating it for the last about 4 years, three and a half years. Happy to be here. Thanks for joining us, and don't be shy with your questions or feedback about what you'd like to see in the product.
Oh, please, yeah, please don't hesitate to ask anything. And those of you that are already using the product, we always welcome feedback. So let's go ahead and kind of get into it and more about the product itself. So one thing to understand with Msp Toolshed is our primary goal is to make your lives easier, the MSP's lives easier, and it could actually be even internal IT if they wanted to use the product too, when it comes to computer deployments. The overall, a lot of the times there's a lot of manual process in going through the out-of-box experience, installing the agent for your RMM software, getting the software that you want installed, making sure updates are done on the computer, all of this stuff you have to do just to get the computer out to the client. Or on the flip side of it, not even new computer builds, existing computers. Like for example, you brought on a new client. You have an entire 50, 100 computers, you got to get your stuff installed on. And that's kind of like what this is all about. Toolshed, Msp Toolshed, or in this case, what we're going to be talking about is easy deploy. The functionality is there to improve this process and automate it. Now, a lot of things you're going to be hearing out there these days, and a lot of changes we've been hearing within the marketplace is about robotic process automation, RPA. And that's kind of a place that we here at Msp Toolshed are really pushing for when it comes to our product. And one of the reasons why we call it Msp Toolshed is because we want it to be a tool shed of tools for MSPs. All right, the idea and really the first kind of thing that we've done is easy deploy. All right, what we're going to find here when we work with this is a lot of what we're doing is working within this automation. So let me go ahead and bring up my environment here so we can start actually kind of showing off the product and talking about it. And I'm going to be giving over kind of a brief overview. And Ben, if you ever want to step in whatsoever, please don't hesitate to, if you want to put some comments in with what you're thinking. And actually, I would love to hear from you, Ben, about what you were thinking back in the day when you first created this, actually. I'd love to have that shared with you, everybody else.
Sure. I was thinking, I really hate setting up computers manually. It's the gist of it. The truth is, I spent a lot of time in the MSP space myself, and as a senior engineer and ops manager across a couple different MSPs in the Colorado area, I kept finding situations where higher level resources, myself included, would be tasked with setting up computers because it was a sensitive client or any number of reasons. But I was always frustrated by this because it's not a terribly complex process, but it chews up time of your resources. Yeah. And if you aren't really on top of it, it makes for a really sour experience with the customer, right? They'll be excited about getting a new computer. They get it. It's not what they need. And that's never a fun experience to navigate that with your clients. So the combination of, just being frustrated by having to do all this manually and the time and the cost associated and still having there be inconsistencies, yeah. It was a problem I really wanted to solve through automation, through a product. And I had built some sort of homebrew solutions prior to coming to Stack Advisors, which I think a lot of MSPs go through that. And while it accomplished plenty, it had the same trend, which is that the adoption and retention and being able to delegate that was really challenging because it was custom automation, it was clunky and hard to support, hard to maintain, and best case scenario, another high level resource could take it over, but you're still kind of in the same situation. So really what I wanted to do was solve that problem by splitting up the responsibility so that you can have your high level automation focused people doing the organization and the management, and then you can have bench techs and field techs and things like that actually running the deployments and still deliver consistency across all of them. And not to mention the time savings. One of my favorite metrics that I like to play around with Toolshed is the total time savings the product has provided to the MSP industry in the history of the product. I didn't pull it before this, but from the last time I pulled it a couple months ago, it was around 22 years of labor, assuming an hour of savings per machine, which I would say is conservative. So, to me, like having dealt with the problem firsthand for so long, to look at that and say, we have saved companies somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 plus years of manual labor makes me real happy because that's work that nobody really wants to be doing, right? Nobody is like waking up in the morning to click on next on wizards and things like that. So, I get a lot of enjoyment knowing that people's jobs are improved a little bit, not only the margin and the business aspect of it, but also just the experience of the work is less sucky because you're not doing as much repetitive remedial work. And that's how Msp Toolshed
one of the things we just recently got back from last year, a convention, getting to talk to some of our clients face to face, and that's one of the things we've been really enjoying is actually seeing how some of our clients have been utilizing Toolshed Easy Deploy and where they've gone with it. And some clients have actually stepped up a little bit and utilized it in ways that we didn't expect, which is kind of neat too. So we're also been learning a lot from our clients and taking in a lot of feedback. So let's start talking the product a little bit. Okay. Mine had a small little glitch there. I don't know if we had a little interruption there, but either way, we'll have a recording after this. My internet connection kind of went wonky for something, I think. But anyhow, let's talk product. So there's two different deployment scenarios we're trying to solve for here. Like I said before, the first one is new out of box. All right, you've got a new computer, you've got it set up out of box. Typically, most clients that I've talked to about this usually have some sort of workbench scenario where they're going to line up all the computers on their workbench, and then the technicians are going to go through and set these computers up one by one, setting up installations. And of course, my cat always wants to be a part of the conversation. Sorry, guys. Here, everybody say hello, just real quick. She's always a part of any webinar that I run. She always says hello. But anyhow, my apologies for that. So first scenario, like I said, any computer, new computer out of box, you got a line of them on a workbench. You've got to get them all set up, and you got a technician just going down one by one, getting them all set up, usually by hand. So that's our first setup, new out of box prior to the out of box experience running through. The second scenario is going to be your computers that are existing. Okay, either A, it's a computer that someone brought with them. So like, for example, the remote worker that you've got out there, that you've got a computer off site somewhere, and or you have someone like a new client that just come on board and you're working with them. That's scenario number two. So those are two primary scenarios, but you will find that we have seen our clients take these scenarios and put them on their heads. So let's just talk those two first. So the first one, we're going to be talking about what's called our one-touch deployments. Our one-touch deployments are where we take a Windows provisioning package and we essentially run it through the out-of-box experience. Now, with any of these deployments we're working with, we're going to be utilizing what we call a configuration profile to perform all the stuff that we want it to do. And I use stuff because there's a lot of different things we can do with this. And that's another thing about this product is where we're getting to a point now is you can kind of come up with whatever you want to do throughout this, and we're going to expand upon this and even improve upon it in the future. That's my ideas. We might talk about. We're probably going to talk about a little bit later. So let's talk. Like I have this demo base profile here, and the idea is that I can build out a basic profile that I have for all of my clients. Okay, in this case, I have Adobe Acrobat Reader. I've got Chrome installs. I've got an automate script running because I have the integration set up, Java runtime install, things like that. These are all different types of items of things that I can do. And you'll find is within this profile, we have multiple different item types you can use. Chocolatey, for those that are familiar with it, chocolatey.org is a public repository for package installation. Chocolatey itself is a package installation tool that is vastly utilized out there in the IT industry. We have custom installers. I'll touch base on that one here in a little bit. Msp Toolshed Scripts. This is our library of essentially PowerShell scripts. We have a whole library of scripts that we maintain. What you will find in there, some of them will be really useful configuration wise. Like for example, disable UAC, time zones. And then we also got a bunch of installation scripts. Like for example, one of the ones we see a lot of our clients commonly use are our Office installation scripts. We have both Business and Pro Plus. And at the same time, what's beautiful about these Toolshed scripts is anyone can submit a PowerShell script to us. We will review it. If it's something that we see that could be within our public library to all of our clients, we can get it added in there at the same time. And that's the beauty about that is that it's a support element. It doesn't have to go through the development team. It can get sent to the support team. Support team can look at it and get that up there. So then we can constantly be adding and maintaining to this library as necessary. Like I said, that's our internal supported library. And then what you're going to also find is you could also be utilizing of course, it wants to slow down a brief moment while I'm doing an actual demo of it. Other ones you'll find in there is you have Rmm Scripts. In this case, we have attached to a ConnectWise Automate instance. This allows you to pick through your entire library of Automate scripts. You can use those as you see fit. I'm going to go ahead and give this a full hard refresh because for some reason it was freezing up for me. Of course, the moment I hit the refresh button, everything kind of goes up. That's the beauty of live demos. You always have something go wrong. Now, let's get back into configuration profiles. Now, some of you that may already be using the product, you may be noticing that I'm currently in what looks to be a dark mode. It's kind of loading up right now. For those of you, we just recently added this on our Wednesday night update last week. You can actually go into the settings and there's a checkbox for dark mode. All right, just kind of give you guys a heads up for that. I apologize. Either A, I'm having internet connections, or of course, it's being slow for me. There we go. So the other items in there, we also have the ability to do PowerShell scripts. I'll touch base on custom installer and PowerShell scripts. They're kind of self-explanatory, but I'll go into more detail with those here in a little bit. And then we also have the ability to nest profiles. Okay, and that's kind of what I want to touch base on next. We can take a profile and let's say, for example, Duff Beer, and I can nest that base profile right in here. Now, a couple other options I want to point out to you is you also have the ability to have it do a reboot during the actual deployment, and it will pick up where it left off. One thing about Toolshed is it is smart enough. A reboot happens, it will, well, go on and continue where it left off and keep working down the list of things it has to do. You also have the ability to differentiate between both laptops and desktops for deployment. Like, for example, if you're trying to deploy to a, well, this one doesn't have that option because of the way it is, but there we go. So for example, laptop and desktop, let's say, for example, I'm putting out a VPN client. Well, I only need that really probably on laptops. Well, that's what you can choose from. You can choose between the two. We do have timeouts in the certain cases. Like, for example, if you end up making like your own custom installer or a particular install takes longer than normal, than our default timeouts, you can adjust those so it will give a little bit more time. At the same point, if, for example, the chocolatey install freezes up for some reason, well, we don't want it just sitting there locking up. What we'll do is we'll have a timeout so it can kind of move on. Other things I want to point out to you here is we do have the ability to do Windows updates. It does perform all updates, just like as if you were doing the Windows updates feature within within Windows itself. Naming rules. So this is something I wanted to kind of point out real quick here, because there's some neat things you can do this. We can also have the computer be renamed during the deployment. This can be really useful in a lot of cases. Now, what you will find here, hit the little plus symbol, because what I'm doing is I'm going in and we're just going to create one for Duff right now. All right, we're going to actually just rename this real quick here, and I'm just going to do a text field. So first part I'm going to create here is Duff for the actual field. I can then do something by chassis type. Like, for example, I can do LT TAC, DT TAC in there and add that in. So now I'm building out my naming rule. And then we can do something unique. Maybe I want to use a serial number. All right, so serial number allows me to pull in the serial number from the computer and add that into the naming format, just like so. I mean, I can also remove that out there, but I also want to point out there's a counting feature. Now, in this current instance, if you don't have Automate, that's fine. You can still use this feature, but I'm currently set up with the ConnectWise Automate integration. So this allows me to select a particular client and or location so that I can then set up a starting count. So like, for example, if I'm using a starting number of 10, and if I wanted to then count up, what's going to happen here is it's going to check against the Automate client in this case. For those of you that are not using, I'll get to there in a second. It's going to start with the number 10, check the client to see, does this computer name exist? If it does, it's going to move up to the next number and just count forward. Now, for those of you that are not using Automate, it doesn't check against anything. It's just going to count up those numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So tend to be, if you're going to be building something like this out, use a higher or like a starting number where you're currently not at. Like, for example, if you know that you've got like 40 something computers deployed, start at 50. You know, everything above 50 has been deployed by Toolshed. Or you can even start off with like a weirder number like 100s. The 100s are what you're using for Toolshed deployments. Now, at the same time, let's say, for example, you want to use a fixed length, you could also add that in there. So for example, if I wanted to start with the number 100, but I want to make sure my number is 4 digits long, well, I put this at fixed length 4. And essentially what's going to happen is it's going to be 0100. So I have a fixed like number added in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and add that in. There we go. I've now created myself a naming rule. It's added in. There we go. And Duff Beer now has it all full set up. Other things that I'll point out is we have all kinds of other different little options, power setting options of what's going to be left behind after the deployment finishes, build notifications. So essentially you can tell the end user, hey, we're doing stuff on this computer. If you're going to work on the computer, either A, the technician that's working on it, or B, the end user itself, this is going to tell them, hey, it's going to reboot. So for example, if you know that confidential screen that everybody logs into, you'll see that confidential. We take that over for a period of time and then pull this out after we're done. And that's another kind of important thing to talk about. When we perform a deployment, when we do something on the computer, Toolshed leaves nothing behind except some troubleshooting logs. That's it. We don't leave a service behind. We are very much about the mindset of not leaving anything behind, so there's no security risk on those computers. Now, how does it work? How does all this work? Well, it's a Windows service. We install a Windows service in the machine. It performs the actions of this configuration profile. That's the gist of it. Windows service does actions, gets done. Really what comes down to is a delivery method. And that's where I'm going to talk about OneTouch. OneTouch is our Windows provisioning packages. All right, high level, really simple. You create yourself a deployment. In the case of those that are using ConnectWise Automate, you can pick which client you want it to go to. You go through the entire settings process, getting it all set up, and then you download a file. All right. Really what it comes down to is a Windows provisioning package that you put on a USB thumb drive. Now I'm going to show you here. This is a Windows provisioning package. I'm downloading it. I put it on a thumb drive, and this then allows me to do really one key thing. Well, as all of you guys know, we have an out-of-box experience we run to. This is the screen you all guys know and love. What you're going to see here is, well, with that Windows provisioning package, a PPKG file put on a FAT32 thumb drive, I enter that thing in to this computer, and what I should see is this right here, install provisioning package. So this is where this all comes in. So let me tell you the whole process. You set the configuration profile, you've created your deployment, you've got the 5 to 10 computers set up on a workbench, and now I get the technician, take that USB stick, slap it in the computer, and this is all they do. Because that comes up automatically. I don't have to do anything. All right. There's an encryption code, kind of a little bit of a security. So if by chance someone loses that thumb drive, you don't lose out on someone being able to install your stuff. Put in a password. And then what you're going to see here at the very top, it says right now, you can remove your removable media now. So I can remove that USB thumb drive right now. I'm done. Yes, literally, I'm done. The computer, when Toolshed is doing everything else right now. I unplug the thumb drive, go to the next computer, do the same thing. Unplug the thumb drive, go to the next computer, do the same thing. And that's literally what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 computers all being deploying at the same time. You're no longer having to do 1 computer, get it done, 2 computer, get it done. No, You can have them all be doing it at the same time. All right. Same thing with the other deployment method. You can have, it's essentially the same thing, but an MSI file. Okay. Once again, I'll touch base on WebStart here in a little bit. But at this point here, it's going through the out-of-box experience. Once it goes through the out-of-box experience, it's going to get to the actual desktop of the machine. It's going to be a login screen, what you're going to see, but there's still stuff happening in the background. We're doing the Windows updates. We're doing the application installs. We're doing the configuration changes, all the things in the configuration profile. All that stuff's being done. Okay. So at this point, I leave it alone. It's working. What I'm going to see, and it's going to take a second for it to show up here, but essentially you're going to see back at this home screen that you're going to see something show up, and it's going to say status of running or in progress. Sorry, in progress. And I can kind of wait for it to run. Typically, in most deployments, we tend to see, depending on the size of them, around 2 hours usually ish. I mean, depends if you're doing Windows updates. Windows updates is probably the biggest chunk of time we tend to see, or if you've got any large installs being run via, like, for example, an automate script, something like that might take a little bit longer. So let's step up next. WebStart deployment. So one touch, like I said, going through that out-of-box experience. WebStart, this one's a little different. This allows, we started going down this whole path of self-service. Okay. Most of the people that we see out there, they want to start having more of a self-service environment. What WebStart is at its core, like I said, was an MSI file. It's simply an MSI file that you run on a computer. But the thing is we want to come up with a new way of doing delivery methods. Well, you're going to have that remote worker out there. They already got their computer. Well, you got to get your agent on there. You got to get all the software installed on there, all the things that get installed there. Well, all you have to do is create yourself a WebStart web page. All right. Literally, this is what it is. I click on here. They get to go to a web page. You can brand it with your own image, all sorts of things. All I have to do is type in the PIN number, which, just to kind of show off here, is I should have this memorized by now since I do this in every single demo, but 400, of course I type it wrong. Always do that every single time. And then I click download, it downloads the MSI file, and then the end user could run this on their own machine. All right, that's the idea here. The end user could download this and run it on their own machine. So that's the hope here. You send this information off to the client, tell them, hey, run this on all their machines. And at that point, hopefully they get it done, taken care of properly. Now, the nice thing is that you could also download the MSI yourself if you've got someone on site that needs to get this stuff installed. Instead of having to install, like, for example, your agent and then run your scripts and then all your other stuff you do there, you literally have that one MSI file, you run it on the machine, it runs, it does all the things. That's it. Essentially, they're the same thing. They're configuration profiles, two different delivery methods. Now, we've seen clients take the MSI file and do group policy. Believe it or not, that's actually worked a couple times. You can also do use it within Intune. Provisioning package technically could also be done with Intune, which we'll talk about some future developments here coming along the road. But that's really it. That's the delivery method. Now, real quick, and I want to point this out here. If you got any questions whatsoever, I'm kind of running through things a little bit quick right now. Just to let you guys know, we do 2 demos a week, so I can do more hands-on, kind of solo working with the client to come in for demos. At the same time, if you reach out to us at help@msptoolshed.com, we're always happy to answer any type of questions whatsoever that you have. And I can always run through this with you in more detail if you've got questions. At the same time, we do have a 30-day free trial. If you haven't checked the product out, please do. All right, I'll go over to the webpage here in a little bit, but msptoolshed.com. If you're sitting here on this thing right now and you want to check it out, sign up for a demo. I'll give you some training. I'll help you onboard it too. So custom installers. Now, I have this set up with a Chrome install just because it was one of the easiest ones I can get. All right, Chrome installs. What this allows me to do is essentially set up my own exe installation or also MSI installation. If you're using MSI, you have arguments. You can put in your own custom arguments as you see fit. We do say that if you're going to use custom arguments, make sure to test, of course, anything you do, test before. I mean, our developers love to say testing in production, but I like to chuckle at them a little bit because they know very well that they would probably have heart attacks if they did that. You have the ability to use MSI properties right here. And then all you do is you drop in the URL for where the actual file is hosted. We do have basic authentication available. So if you want to do self-host with your own authentication, you can do so. This can do rather large downloads. This can do rather large installs also. Just make sure to keep those timeouts appropriately if you're going to do that. All right. So once again, you can make your own custom library of installations. One of the beautiful things about this is like, for example, if you have your own different RMM agent out there, you can use this to install your automate or your RMM agent. So like, for example, if you got Kaseya or Datto RMM, things like that, this can be set up to do that with there. Most of the time, what I usually recommend is that you try to find out what type of custom properties they have or arguments that you can utilize for custom installations of those pieces of software. We do know a lot of them have command line setups. You can do the installations entirely based off their MSI or executable. So that's another great way to do this too. And that's kind of the gist of custom installers. PowerShell scripts are really just that. It's simply, I have PowerShell script, it puts it in there, runs it. Pretty straightforward. PowerShell is not really that. I mean, it itself is complex, but the way that we deliver it is not. All right. It does use a bypass automatically. So for those of you for execution bypass policies, we do bypass automatically within it. And really, we're using the same technology that we utilize within our Msp Toolshed scripts, because literally like, our scripts are just PowerShell. This allows you to do a custom repository. Now, what I will mention is the PowerShell scripts do come with a higher tier package within our plan. It's the only kind of limit we really have when it comes to our plans. And that's kind of the gist of it. You can set up other user management within there. I will touch on settings because this is where we have our integration set up. We have automate, manage integrations, which I'll come back to you in a second. And we even have a Teams integration. This allows to, for example, you can have it push to a particular webhook. So if you have a webhook set up with one of your channels in Teams, this can allow you to push, for example, the deployments, completions, and or start and completion notifications to that channel. Once again, you got those 10 computers sitting on that workbench. You got that client going through, or one of those technicians running through and get them all done. He can then go back to his desk, continue working. Once again, they don't have to sit there and babysit it. If they're not babysitting it, they're working on other things. And this allows you to, with the Teams integration, go look at that channel. Hey, they're doing their thing, or they just finished up these two machines. They can then go back to those two machines, continue working on them and finishing it up. All right. Once again, more save time, no constant babysitting, no having to go next through application installations. And that's the whole kind of gist of it. Ben, did I miss anything? Do you think anything else on top of there I should add on?
No, I think that covers it. Just a quick aside on the Teams integration. As you can see, we do have a time zone offset setting there, which is a little unique to the application because we handle time zone offset automatically throughout the rest of the product. But with the way the Teams API works, we don't actually have a way to get the time zone of the recipient that's getting that. So just a quick aside that to make sure you configure your time zone offset when you set that up. Otherwise, you'll get it in UTC and maybe be confused.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to pull up.
We're happy to get dark mode rolled out there, Matt.
We are happy. That was so what I wanted to point out for those of you guys that are utilizing the ConnectWise Manage integration, what this allows you to do is essentially push the details of the deployment to a ticket. And you can have it either go to the internal notes or discussion notes, either one. This allows you to have those details right there. Now, we had a question about plans for SSO with Azure. If so, any ETA wouldn't be live. Funny you say that. Ben, do you want to take that one?
Yep. So that's in active development right now. Part of our strategy for getting there is to migrate from our current authentication provider to a new one called Auth0. It's one of the world's largest authentication provider services out there, used by probably a bunch of stuff that you already use today. So it's very secure and robust, but they have fantastic MFA support if you choose to continue to use what we'll call a local account to Toolshed. It also natively supports federation to lots of things, including Azure. So that's a Q1 goal. We should have that out before Q1 is complete. Like I said, it's active development right now. And basically what the release will provide is there will be a couple of small steps for you guys to do an account migration if you want to go to Azure SSO. But that release with all that will allow you to do either continue with your existing local accounts to Toolshed, but enable MFA using your preferred MFA solution, or switch it over to just Azure SSO through your tenant. So that's coming and being worked on right now.
And that kind of goes into some of the future plans that we're working on. This is going to let us this is going to allow us to lay the groundwork for future potential integrations with Azure. And for example, Intune, Autopilot, things like that. I know one of our goals down the road is to have Autopilot as a delivery method. Now we're still working on it, but we need to get the auth stuff done first before we can really get into that and make sure we can do it. So, but there are some more plans.
Yep. Motorza asked if we are looking at macOS deployment too. We get that question a lot. It's kind of a long-winded answer. Not right now, possibly down the road. Apple and macOS make that a really, really difficult and expensive and painful process. In the recent versions of OS X, the new disk and kernel permissions, in order to actually bypass those and effectively automate anything, requires paying a pretty significant Apple tax. Those factors combined with the fact that the software itself that we would be deploying may still have those challenges makes it a really, really challenging process to replicate what we can do in Windows, in Mac. That is not to say we wouldn't ever have some capability around it. My suspicion is that if we were going to do it, it would probably look more like leveraging some other existing solution to kind of ease that process, like Adigy or one of the kind of similar products. The barrier to entry for participating at that level with Apple is extremely high. And right now, the market need for it does not look like there's enough to justify all that investment. Will stay on our radar because we do get requests about it. But right now, it looks like it's not totally feasible, meaning, we would just have to charge so much for it that I don't.
I think either Ben cut out or I did, one of the two. I think Ben cut out. But yeah, what Ben's trying to get with this one is that it's very tricky for us to get involved with that. It's likely if we're going to be doing, a lot of times what I've been recommending to clients is looking into Rmm solutions for such. I know Adigy is probably the big popular one at this time. From what I've seen, it's one of the few out there that are really dedicated just to Mac spaces when it comes to Rmm products. So that would be something I would look into. Now, I'm not sure if I lost Ben there entirely, but we'll see if he can come back. At this point, there you are, Ben. Back? No? Oh, +1 for Adigy from Mark. Oh, we just lost Ben entirely. All right. He is back. Welcome back, Ben.
Hey, sorry about that. Apparently my internet decided to drop out momentarily.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it got cut off. I just talk away.
I kind of wrapped up a little bit for you. Okay. You were pretty much at the end there.
Cool.
So no worries. But yeah, and Matt was saying +1 for Adigy there. At this point here, any questions? The floor is open. We've got a good 15 more minutes or 10 more minutes left for questions. If you want to see a part of the product again, please don't hesitate to ask. For those of you that are already using it, I'd like to know, what have you used? Have you used OneTouch or WebStart? Just go ahead and drop in the chat. I'm kind of curious, or if you've used both yet. If you've done any deployments even yet. If you haven't, let me know because I will walk you through it as much as possible. Primarily use OneTouch. Okay. Working well so far. Awesome. That's good. Hey, we'd love to hear that. Great.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to ask Mortiza, how many Windows machines you got out there you're working with, or are you primarily a Mac shop? Let's see here. And actually, Matt, I'm going to ask you a question also. Have you even tried to look at WebStart yet? Have you seen if it could be usable? Okay, 10% Macintosh for Mortiza there. Thank you for answering that. I would ask you also use a little bit for remote clients. That's kind of like where we've been seeing a lot of people utilizing WebStart as remote clients. That's kind of neat to see. We always love that. That's another thing, is getting to see how people are utilizing the product makes it even more exciting for us, because we can kind of see, okay, this feature is being utilized this way. I will also give a little tip to you all. We're going to be trying to look at more ways that we can work with our community, aka all of our clients. So I would see probably here in the next week or so, I'm going to be trying to reach out to some of our clients to get more people involved in our community, so we can A, be a little more collaborative in process, and B, we can work closer with our users. That's something that we've always wanted to push, because a lot of the features that we have and add into the product, aka dark mode, is from requests from our clients. All right, dark mode was requested. It's funny that this one came in as a feature request, and one of our developers saw it and started writing it before we even put it into a sprint or anything at all. It was literally like, how far did Matt get before you told him to have to slow down?
Well, he did some extracurricular work on it. Once he came in, he still finished his sprint, so I can't really
Yeah, it's
complain.
true.
But it was fun to see the developers really get fired up about the feature request and knock it out. And it was a good holiday kind of development activity, because
Yeah,
it's creative
fun.
and fun and not terribly technical. So it was good. Anytime we can do some work on something that's really got the dev team excited, it yields very good results.
And that's another thing. We are an in-house development team. Everything is in-house. We're all part of what's called Stack Advisors, our primary company, and a lot of what we do is entirely based around this product. Now, I'm going to point out a few other things for everybody here. I want to mention that there is a notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. We do go over different releases. This is something that I recently have seen, Ben. For some reason, it's cutting over on top of things.
Yeah.
So that's new. I don't know what happened there.
Get that fixed in the next release.
Yep. We also have plenty of documentation. We have a plethora of documentation on the product that our writer of the documentation went to extreme extents to basically write out this entire documentation in full detail on every part of the actual product. It is quite extensive, a lot of questions, well written out documentation. And let's go ahead and go over to the website real quick, because I want to point out to everybody that those of you that, if you're not already trying it out, please don't hesitate to do a free trial. And if you do set up for a free trial here, I will be setting up like a 1-hour implementation training with you also. We'd be happy to teach you the product. Those of you that are already on trial or working with us, you're always welcome to reach out to us at help@msptoolshed.com. I do want to point out the pricing for everybody. All right, we do have our starter plan, which is 15 deployments per month. It's the only limited kind of per deployment limitation we have. This is for someone that's just kind of getting started, new to the product kind of thing. You can work with a professional, gives the unlimited deployments. Premier is where you start getting the extra features, like for example, the PowerShell scripting feature, and we also like to say the extended support and training. Really what this means is more consulting aspects of it. We come in, we'll help you with best practices that we've seen. We'll work with you on trying to make sure that your configuration profiles are set up in a more efficient manner. Suggestions, working with you on getting full training. Like for example, I'll sit down with your entire team and teach them how to use it. Like I said, a lot of the client facing stuff is me. I'm the one teaching, I'm the one training, I'm the one answering a lot of the support questions. So we're always here to help. And that's kind of where the Premier plan comes in. We do have this fully managed one right here, but this is kind of, for example, a scoped out project. The idea behind it is we'll scope out what your needs are. If you want us to manage it, you want us to build scripts, you want us to do full on blown trainings for your entire in-house teams and stuff like that, we essentially scope that out, and it's usually built separately, but that is also available if people have interest for it.
Yeah, just a quick aside on the plans too, Brandon. If you've been a customer with Msp Toolshed for a while and you are on a plan that you do not see listed here and you are paying a different price than is listed here, you're actually grandfathered into our Premier plan. So we do get questions about that occasionally, since the prices don't line up with what's on the website. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that if you have been using the product for a while, and you are paying something that is not here, you are using the Premier plan, and all grandfathered plans will continue to remain at that Premier level where you get all the goodies.
Kind of a thank you for everybody that's used our product for how long they've been using it.
Also an incentive not to cancel, because you will lose it.
I was trying to make the anyhow.
I'm just being straight.
But
yeah, that comes up often. So I
Okay.
do want to circle back real quick on the Q&A piece. We talked a little bit about how you guys are using it, but I did want to float it that if you guys have any feature requests or other parts of your workstation setup scenario that you would like to see solved by Msp Toolshed, please hit us up with a feature request, or even just tell us what the business challenge is. You don't have to give us a specific feature. We will try to work that out. We're always looking for where we can sort of plug the holes in the process and make the product as rounded out as possible.
Yeah, Matt, just send in, if you could send them an email into help@msptoolshed.com. It'll create a ticket for me, and I'll send out a meeting request invite for you, and you can book something out on my calendar when you're free. So that would probably be the best way to do that. And like on top of what Ben was saying, we also like to just, if you've got an idea and you're not really sure how to what you want it to be, we can schedule a meeting and have a little 30-minute call and talk about it. Because I mean, that's the great thing about this is that we can just have a chat, talk about the idea, and who knows, maybe we come up with something that may not be exactly what you're looking for, or maybe you don't know exactly what you're looking for, and we can come up with it. And that's the great thing is we can just write it up, get the ball rolling, and see if it's something we can plausibly do and put it in. One of the things we're going to be looking for is other things we can do. I mean, there's not just computer deployments. There are other challenges out there. And we'd like to see what some of those other challenges are when it comes to something similar to what we're doing. So,
and to give a little context, since we're getting towards the end, probably a good time to touch on a little bit about the roadmap for 2022.
Yes.
And maybe that'll get some of the gears turning about what other features we might be able to deliver for you guys to help solve this and get it to be a fully automated process, which is what we're after. So I talked a little bit about our auth provider and Azure SSO that we're working on right now. The part of the motivation behind that, aside from the obvious security benefits of that model, is that the Azure Federation SSO will allow us to start to do Intune integrations and leverage autopilot as part of our deployment process. So that's one of the big things I'm pretty fired up about is basically taking our process and leveraging autopilot in your customer tenants that are licensed for it to start the deployment process. So if you can kind of imagine how we do One Touch and Web Start today, associated to config profile, that kind of model, that same model would apply, but the deployment method would be via autopilot. And that gives you one unified place to manage all of your customer deployments, whether they are licensed for that or not in Azure or not using Azure at all, if that's the case. So it's really a single pane of glass kind of to do all of your deployments regardless of the licensing of your clients. That's the big one that we're working on. We're also looking at other areas of sort of the multi-tenancy of your Intune and Endpoint Manager clients that we could ease through that integration. So if you guys have ideas about that, we'd really love to hear it. That's the bigger initiative. Some of the other smaller ones that are equally awesome have been driven from feature requests. One thing that we're working on right now is also what we're calling content groups. Content groups will allow you to organize all of these things, config profiles, naming rules, one touch, et cetera, into whatever organizational strategy you like. You can group them together. I think for most MSPs, this is going to look something like clients or clients and locations. But if you chose to do it based on service plans or some other method, you would be able to do that. Then to follow up on that, we will be adding a security capability to that so that you can control who has visibility or edit rights into individual content groups. The idea here is that if you've got either technicians that should only be looking at it, you don't want them making changes, or maybe you have
in-house IT, for example,
an in-house IT that you want to be able to run deployments, but not have visibility to the configuration and deployments of other clients. This security architecture will allow you to do that, and it will be based on content groups and user groups and marrying that up in whatever fashion you'd like to do. So it's another very popular feature request we've had that we're working on. We've got some other cool stuff coming, like more frequent updates to the status. That's another request we've gotten. It'll be a little bit later in the year, but that's part of what we're working on. That way, you'll know over the internet what phase of the deployment process things are in. So if something's going awry or taking longer, you'll have some better insight into what's going on there.
All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up what we've got to go over today. If anyone is interested, once again, I'm going to touch base on it, help@msptoolshed.com. If you got any questions whatsoever, you can sign up for a free trial right here on the webpage, msptoolshed.com/free TAC trial. You can just go to the pricing. You can go ahead and sign up for it. Like I said, it's a 30-day free trial. Always first day is free. You can cancel at any time. No risk whatsoever. At the same time, though, if you ever run into a case where you can't get what you want done within those 30 days, don't hesitate to hit us up. We're more than happy to extend it out if you need to. It's very easy for us to do. We'd rather see you get the best testing out of it as you can, see if it's something that's for you. We hope it would be. Either way, thank you again for your guys' time. It's really appreciated. And those of you that are already using the product, thank you for stopping in and talking about it with us. We always love hearing from our clients. Other than that, Ben, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I think that covers it.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate you guys' time. And like I said, let us know on feature requests. Keep an eye on our notifications for news about the product. If you have a challenge or an idea, let us know. We'd love to try to integrate that in the roadmap and solve that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate you guys checking out Msp Toolshed. We look forward to hearing from you. Spread the word. If you're liking the product, please tell your friends. We're always looking for it. And if you get someone that tells one of your friends, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. And who knows, we might be able to do something for you also. Thank you again, guys. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yep. Thanks, guys.